tubers and footers, how's it going? Figured I better tell my other story of one of my other experiences up on the Deshka River. So I was out on the river. I had my dog, which was a pit bull terrier mix, Radar, and it was just Radar and I was on this little island area, and it was off the Matsu River, which is one of the big rivers in Alaska, and I would camp there for as long as possible. So I would get like Fridays and Mondays off, and then just go out there on, after work on Thursday and stay the whole weekend. And, I would do this a lot. And I was out there so much, I ended up, the tent was just set up, the camp was just set up because I would always come back to it. So, I was out there one night and just the dog and we had a fire going, had just finished dinner, and it was starting to get late, and I could hear this talking across the river. And where I was, there was really nowhere for someone to be across the river because all of the alder were so dense. There's no way you could get through it. There's nowhere for a boat to, tie up or anything. And as I was sitting there listening, they were getting louder and louder, and I thought, and they were like whistling, and it was really noisy. And I thought, man, they must be drunk. And so, because that was the only, how else would they have gotten there? And so I was kind of curious, trying to listen to what they were saying. And it sounded like they were either Russian or native, and I couldn't quite make out what they were saying. And as they were, making their way along the riverbank, they were these whistles, really loud, and my dog was kind of, he'd bark every once in a while or something, and then they'd get quiet, and then they'd start up again, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this horrible blood-curdling scream. I mean, makes your bones hurt. It's so terrifying. It sounded like a woman being murdered. That is exactly what it sounded like. I've heard fox, I've heard rabbits, I've heard all that stuff. This was not any of those. And it startled me bad enough that I grabbed my gun and ran to the boat and was screaming across the river, "Do you need help?" And I'm whistling and screaming, "I'll come and help." Now it was dark, and to cross that river and early spring is extremely dangerous. There's huge logs in the river. You don't know what's in that water, and it's not a good idea to cross it at nighttime. And so I'm screaming and screaming, and it got quiet. Just super, super quiet. Like you could hear a pin drop. And it was really eerie. So I got out of my boat, got up on the bank, and just sat and listened for a minute. And there was nothing. And so I pulled up the mag light and I started scanning the other side of the river. And there was nothing over there. Absolutely nothing. And I holler again, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" And nothing. And so it was just really awkward. So I wasn't quite sure what to do. And as I sat there listening and waiting, nothing. There was nothing. So I went back to the fire, and I'm debating what to do. And a little while later, you could hear something come across the river. Now, this is a big river. Nothing's crossing that river with ease. Like big animals, moose and bear and stuff cross the river. So I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to be fun because it's a small island and it's just me and my dog on the island. So I'm listening and listening, and whatever it is gets up on shore and it's tromping around. And so my dog starts pacing around and he's whining a little bit and he's pacing back and forth and pacing back and forth, and he lays over, like upper body over this log that was laying down, and he's laying over it just focused out. So again, I'm scanning with the mag light. I don't see anything, but you can hear there's something big out there. And so my dog is just will not take his focus off that, whatever is out there. So after a while, just didn't feel right. I don't know. It was really weird. And I don't know why going in a tent makes anybody feel better, but there you go. Go into the tent. So I'm laying there in the tent and I can hear that thing coming closer and closer. And I'm thinking, oh crap, oh crap. My dog is going to get into it. I'm going to have to shoot this thing. And I do not like to shoot in. I try to avoid that as much as possible. So I am laying in there and I grab the casul. I got the shotgun over there in the tent and I'm just laying there and hearing it. My dog ends up crawling all the way to the bottom of my bag. And I'm like, okay. Not like we have a whole lot of room just for us in this bag, but he's in there and he's not budging. He's not moving. He's not making a sound. And I was actually thankful because I did not want to get into this with another animal. And so usually Radar is all up in every animal's stuff because he was such a dork. Anyhow, so I'm just sitting there envisioning whatever it is coming into that, like coming in. Now, the tent was one of those really, really good Gary King double tents. So it was a double canvas tent. So it would have to go through like 2 tents to get into me. And so I just was laying there envisioning what I would do. And when you have a casul, you've got a lot of peace of mind. But it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to, if that tent flexes in, and I'm thinking it's a bear, if that tent flexes in, and that bear comes through this tent, it's gonna get ugly really fast. And so, I'm just trying to run through scenarios on how this is gonna play out. And next thing I know, something is walking by the tent, and I am just holding my breath, waiting. And it rubs up against the tent, and my heart is right here in my throat, and I am just, oh, hoping that tent doesn't flex in. And I'm waiting and waiting, and next thing I know, I wake up and it's the morning time. Go figure. And there was another group of guys that came flying up in the boat, in another boat. Are you okay? Are you okay? And it was first the dawn. And they're like, we heard all that screaming. Did are you okay? Got out, went around my tent, and there was tracks. Now, see this big, like, look at that. That's my handprint in that bear track right there. Okay. So when you see those things doubled up, they make a huge print, a huge, huge print. And so I just assumed that was a bear that had walked around my tent. Granted, there were no claws or anything in it, but like I walked around barefoot all the time, all the time. I'm usually barefoot when I'm outside in Alaska for some reason. I just love being barefoot. Same here. And so, I don't know, for some reason, I never, ever, ever, ever considered Sasquatch. It's so weird. Never, 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 never once. But I'm telling you, those screams, I don't know. And that talking, the closest thing I've heard to that was the Sierra sounds. So there you go. There's another experience up in Alaska. Talk to you later, tubers and footers.